In this video, we're going to do a deep dive into something that causes a lot of controversy. It's a position that some people think is not a big deal, and other people, parents, grandparents, some professionals, think it is the worst position ever to have a baby or a child or a toddler sit in, and that is the W sitting position. So we're going to talk about what W sitting is, what its definition is, what causes it, and some of the future implications of a child who sits only in a W sitting position, and also when a parent should be concerned and seek outside help, and also some alternative positions that you can put your kid to sit in if your baby seems like they're stuck in a W sitting position. So let's get into it. What is W sitting? W sitting is this position that I have my assistant doll Annie in. You can see that Annie is sitting, her knees are out in front of her body, but both of her heels are off to the side. If I turn her to the side, so you can see her heels are off to the side, behind, but off to the side of her. If you look at that position, you can see that it actually forms a W, and that's where the name comes from, W sitting. So let's start off and talk a little bit about what causes W sitting. So there's something called femoral anteversion. That's just a fancy technical name, meaning that the baby's thigh bones are a little bit twisted inwards or rotated inwards. And this causes this position to be a little bit more comfortable for a baby or a toddler to sit in. In addition, your baby, when they're first born, their joints are super mobile and highly flexible. And so it's easy for baby to internally rotate their knees, rotate those thigh bones, and just plop down into this position. So let's talk about why this position can wind up being a favorite of some babies early on. First of all, it's about stability. Now, if your baby sits in this position, you can see how wide her base of support is. This wide base of support means the baby is able to sit down. Her center of gravity is right in the middle of her body, and baby can sit in this position without expending any kind of trunk effort in order to remain upright. And so baby can sit in this position and play if she's got a toy in front of her, and baby can play in this position without exerting much energy. That's one of the reasons that babies like this position, because it offers them a wide base of support. It helps baby to conserve energy, and baby can sit there and focus on playing with a toy and not exert any kind of energy in order to keep their trunk upright, because they have such a wide base of support. So now, there are a couple of concerns that physical therapists and chiropractors have about this position when it comes to musculoskeletal concerns, as you would call it, which means we're concerned about how this position is impacting your baby's skeleton. One of the things that we're concerned about is that this position can put a lot of strain on baby's knee joints. If baby gets into the habit of sitting in this position and not moving out of this position, then over time, the knee joints can wind up being internally rotated. This can actually impact the way baby sits, crawls, moves, and actually walks later on in life. What's called pigeon-toed, where baby walks and their knees are bent inwards like this, like a knock-knee type of position. It also impacts the way baby's foot is positioned. You can see that baby's foot is internally rotated, where baby's foot is in this position, and it just stays there. The ankle is not getting the kind of flexibility and mobility that the ankle joint is supposed to have as baby is developing. It can also impact baby's arch, which is still not fully formed when baby's born. Baby's feet are actually quite flat, and the baby needs a lot of movement and mobility in order to be able to develop that arch in baby's ankles. So those are a couple of the concerns that therapists like myself have with the W sitting position. Of course, there are also other things that can be impacted by this position. One of those things is crossing midline. Typically, when kids sit in this position, even a toddler sitting in this position, you will find that it does a couple of different things. One, it locks the pelvis into place. The pelvis stays fixed, and baby is now not able to rotate their body. Baby tends to, if they're going to reach for a toy that is on the right with your right hand, and then not cross midline. Crossing midline is very important because it helps the communication between the hemispheres of your baby's brain. Here's how this works. The right side of your baby's brain controls the left side of your baby's body. The left side of your baby's brain controls the right side of her body. These two hemispheres need to communicate with each other, and baby needs to rotate their trunk, bring the right arm over into the left side of her body, and vice versa. Bring the left hand across midline. Imagine if you have a line drawn right down the center of your baby's body, that's what we're talking about, what would be considered midline, and crossing midline, rotating the trunk to get an object over here with the left hand, to get an object or a toy on the other side with the right hand. You can see as I'm trying to rotate her that the legs are actually moving. Now, the legs typically don't move because the baby is, who's seated in this position, gets into this fixed pattern of just sitting, playing with one or two toys right there in front of her, and not rotating, not moving, not weight shifting, not getting into a variety of different positions. And so that is one of the concerns that I typically have with this position. And whenever I'm working with a baby, I try to subtly move baby out of that position. Not only impacts baby physically, babies are observed to have what's called behavioral rigidity, where baby tends to get into kind of a fixed pattern, almost like a tunnel vision, where they want to do things in a certain way in this narrow field of vision. Babies who typically sit like this do not rotate their body, like I said before, and actually look around the room. And so the child becomes fixated on a few very close items right in front of them, and they're really not taking in the entire room, taking in their environment. And so they tend to become restricted in their behavior as well as in their movement. And so that's a cognitive as well as a social and sensory issue that I have with this position, which is why I don't like it. So what are some solutions to correcting W sitting? How do you correct it? First of all, we have a three-part approach. The first part is I want parents to be aware of the implications and the drawbacks of this position, and have an actual strategy of how they can go about correcting it. So once the parents are aware, I would say not just the parents can make sure that everyone involved in the child's life, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, uncles, aunts, teachers in the daycare, that everyone's on the same page, and that everyone is aware that, okay, the child likes to sit in this position, but as often as possible, we want to cue baby to get out of that position and sit in some alternative positions. The second component is making the toddler aware that, okay, they're sitting in this position, and try to do some positive reinforcement where you can say things like, you're doing a good job, you're sitting in long sitting, your legs are getting so strong. And use some positive reinforcement whenever you see baby sitting in a position other than the W sitting position. Your baby's in long sitting, your legs are getting so strong. The third component is to introduce alternative positions gradually. The first alternative position I want to share with you is what's called long sitting. It's called long sitting because baby has their legs straight out in front of them and the legs are long in front of them. Now, this position, as you can see just how much more narrow baby's center of gravity, or baby's base of support rather, is. And this will significantly challenge baby's dynamic balance as baby moves and plays around in this position. So if you can cue your baby into long sitting, you can just manually sit with baby when you're playing, pop those legs in front and not even say anything in the beginning, and see how long baby can actually last in this position. A lot of times babies get into the W sitting position and forget that they're in that position, and they're not really aware of how long they've actually been in that position. That's the first alternative position, long sitting. Another alternative position, once baby gets stable in this position, you can put baby into what's called ring sitting. Ring sitting is where you have baby put their legs and form kind of a circle in front of baby. This position is a little bit more unstable, again, than the W sitting and long sitting, and baby will have to work on it. Once baby gets stable in the ring sitting position, then you can move on to what's more challenging, and because it has the smallest base of support, and that is what we like to call crisscross applesauce, where you have baby cross their legs over each other and sit in this position. Now, these are a couple of techniques that you can use to gradually transition your baby out of the W sitting position. If your baby sits in W sitting, okay, let's hope that doesn't happen. Baby sits in W sitting, and baby wants to get to this toy, and she does something like this and moves into side sitting. She grabs her toy, she comes back, and now she's sitting in long sitting or ring sitting, and she has a variety of different positions that she's sitting in. That's not a big deal if baby occasionally sits in the W sitting position. I don't want you to go into a panic every time you see your baby in a W sitting position. It's not that serious, especially if baby is transitioning between positions. Now, if you observe your baby over time, let's say a few days or a week, and every time you see your baby on the ground, baby is in this position, and the baby seems like they're in physical pain if baby is not in this position. If you move baby out of this position and you took your hands off, baby either collapses over, and the next thing you know, baby has worked their way back into this W sitting position. I would seek some additional assistance, seek some outside help at this point, because it means that baby's hips, the hip joints, may have restricted just from being in this position for prolonged periods of time. And so that's when you would want to seek the advice of a professional and maybe have a physical therapist come to your home or go to a physical therapy establishment and get some treatment for your baby. Okay, so that is the long and short of W sitting. If you got value from this video, please like this channel, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I drop a video. That helps other parents like you find this video and see more videos like this. All right, I'll talk to you soon. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.